We're here together. That was I don't know what word would you use. That was a um
Frustrating as a fan because we you could have seen us pulling away. You could have seen us doing better than shooting 65% from the free throw line. Just a little frustrating, and especially to know that their star player was out of the game. I give a lot of credit to Kansas keeping this game close for a while. So not what I would have hoped for, but I have my own thinking on that, and we'll get to that later.
we'll get to that. Let's go through the game because this game did not go how I thought it was going to go coming into it. I had let me check my notes here so I can say I had us winning 95-72
Now,
without Peterson.
I'd say it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, but I had this at a 80-70,
You did. You were much closer on this one.
and I
Now,
was off by just a few points, so I had it as like a 10-point win.
now the thing that I underestimated about this Kansas team was their defense. I thought they did a really good job executing defensively, making things difficult for Duke. There was a stretch in the game where Duke was able to execute pretty well offensively, and we're going to get to that in a bit because I feel like this game had like several games within the game. So you had the start of the game where Duke scored on a nice design play to start the game, which I think could easily be forgotten. It was a really nice Gangba to Boozer play to start the game. And then it was Evans had an early three, but there was Kansas getting offensive rebounds and Kansas getting runouts early off of Duke turnovers. That was the key parts of the early part of this game. And it was 14-10 Kansas with 14:30 to go. And Kansas was playing well. They're getting out in transition. They were scoring there, and they were scoring off offensive rebounds. And Badunga was giving our bigs a lot of difficulty.
I saw this as coming off of the last two games, which were romps on our part, to say the least, with 40 and 50-point wins, that we had to adjust to a team that was willing to take the game to us. And with their star player down, Bill Self had them ready for this game. They certainly had a plan for how to deal with Cam Boozer. They had a plan for how they were going to force the action, and I give them a lot of credit for it. And I think that it was part of the reason why we didn't respond well in the first half, but that certainly doesn't explain why we didn't respond well in the second half.
Well, yeah, we're going to get there. And I think it's also important to address the fact that motivation, we all know it can have a big impact, especially in college basketball. And I think for Duke coming into this game, even though it's Duke, Kansas, there's no Darren Peterson. So there's a little bit of a letdown psychologically. And it's yes, they shouldn't have it, but they're especially this Duke team is a lot of young players, 18, 19, 20 years old. Whereas and so let me just finish on the Duke side. They come into this game, and I'm not saying they have nothing to gain because that's not true, but they have less to gain, and it's almost like unless they beat Kansas by 20 plus points, the narrative from this game would be, yes, Duke won, but Kansas didn't have Darren Pearson, and ultimately that's where we ended up. And then whereas for Kansas, they're playing with house money. They're coming into this game. Nobody thinks they're going to win. They're without their star player. They're in Madison Square Garden against number 5 ranked Duke, and Coach Bill Self had them ready to go. Now, I said there was a lot of games within this game. Kansas was up 26-20 with 6 minutes and 40 seconds to go in the first half when Flory Badunga picked up his second foul. And there was a big key in the first half when Badunga got his second foul. Also, Tiller had 2 fouls. Trey White had a couple of fouls, and those were 3 most important players for Kansas outside of Melvin Council, for sure. And Badunga was their most important. You could argue Trey White, but I thought Badunga's impact offensively and defensively was really felt. And from that point on, Duke went on a 21-7 run to close the first half. And one final note on the first half specifically. Um, Trey White knocks down a three with about 30 seconds or so to go, maybe a little bit less than that, which cut the lead to 5. And then Duke Cam Boozer dribbles out the clock. Evans comes up. He slips the screen. He's open from well beyond NBA range and drills it. And that was a huge three to keep the lead or extend it back to 8 points for Duke heading into halftime. And as this game unfolded, I think that three could be lost, but the importance of it was not, because that gave Duke a little bit of a cushion heading into halftime.
Well, the 21-7 run, which was great on Duke's part, still only meant that we got to halftime up 8 points.
Yes.
And so I think you're probably more right that well, I'm going to say it's a little bit of both. The foul trouble they got into seemed to have ignited the 21-7 point run. But on the other hand, I'll say after the last 2 games, we were not up to a team that was going to play aggressive and at least had good pieces, but was missing their king.
Or queen, if we're going to use a chessboard, terminology, because Cam Boozer certainly our queen on the chessboard, and they were doubling him every time he touched the ball. They were sending 2. In the first half, I thought he did a really good job passing out of it. A couple of times I felt like if the pass was a little bit crisper, we could have got a shot directly off of it, but Kansas did a good job of rotating the defense afterwards and being able to reset after the double teams on Boozer. But at the same time, there were times where Boozer was able to make that pass to a cutter or an open shooter and get Duke a bucket. Now, second half starts off. It's by the way, just a quick aside. It's nice to do one of these after the last couple of games where it was just, all right, Duke won by 40. There's no point in breaking down the game. So this is actually fun, especially because Duke won the game. Otherwise, this wouldn't be so much fun sitting here. Starts off.
Would have been miserable.
It would have been miserable. You're right, especially without Peterson. It was
right.
A lose-lose situation there.
Never would have liked it.
Cam hits a big three at the start of the second half. And
I hate to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead. Good timeout.
Remember, we're together right now. We'd love for you to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Certainly hit like. And help us, because thanks to you, we're over 2,000. And we really appreciate all the support out there. All right, back to you, Jack.
On the road to 2,100. So, let's see. So, Duke is up 51-41 after the first 4-minute segment. So, feeling pretty good overall. And then there's that moment where Kansas cuts the lead to 5. And we have this lineup out there.
Strange lineup.
Caden, Darren Harris, Hamenya, Malik, and Gangba. And you're thinking, at least I was thinking, I know you're thinking the same thing because we were watching together. Where's the offense coming from? The offense came from Caden Boozer. Caden Boozer hit a 3. He had a nice driving 2. He was really important in that stretch where it was like, where's it going to come from? There's also, I think it was Gangba to Brown, a really nice backdoor cut there. So we were finding buckets, but at the same time, we were giving them up. Council was getting a bunch of buckets going to the rim. He is one of the quicker, faster players probably in college basketball. But we had done a good job guarding him in the first half. The second half, he was able to get downhill and get to the rim. And then Badunga was just giving us fits around the rim. Gangba was not doing a great job defending him. And both guys were picking up fouls, though, at the same time. left and right. Yeah, just
Well, in a half in which we led for, had the lead for all 20 minutes.
yes.
Did you ever feel comfortable?
No, not until that's a great segue. Isaiah Evans hit that
Oh,
3-pointer because and before that he had a series of plays where I think it was a 4-point lead and we were teetering and he drew a charge on Bryson Tiller and he had the nice lob to Gangba and then later on he hits that three with 1 or 2 seconds on the shot clock
we were sitting there going, there's only 2 seconds. What are they going to do?
and then followed up with the defensive play where he didn't get the rebound technically, but he tips it so Kansas can't, and it ends up with Gangba. I thought Isaiah Evans had a fantastic game, and the games in between the Texas game and this one, there were some up and down moments, but I do not care. He had his two best games. I don't know if that's even true. There was one game in between where he had a really complete game, so that's not fair. But he had two of his better games in the bigger games that Duke has played so far.
And we were convinced that, we had the lead at half. We had come off the 21-7 run that, in fact, as he's done for his 3 years at Duke, the second half speech was going to result in us pulling away. And it just didn't happen.
It did not. It did not. So let's go to stats, and then I will give you guys my medals for this game. And then
We're going to the chat,
we're going to the chat,
which
That's
is
right.
fun. We'll be doing it together. I've never been in the studio, by the way.
I got to turn off your camera because you're not in there. So, all right. Yeah, you can actually see the stats. How about that?
I know. This is very exciting for me.
So I'll let you. This is your first time. You're looking at the stats live. What? Go read off a couple players that stand out to you.
Well, clearly, for points, in a game in which I didn't think he was he wasn't living up to his billing, Cameron Boozer finishes with 18 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in a night in which we needed him to really assert himself. Second leading scorer was Isaiah Evans, where his baskets were transitional baskets that sort of you felt like that's it. We're going. We're moving. He's hitting these threes.
Sorry, the 3-pointer that he hit in the very beginning of the game, Kansas scored. I'm going down. You're going down. Write a little bit of notes. And by the time you look back up, he'd already shot and made the three. It was like they scored within 5 seconds off of a Kansas make. Continue.
All right. Then Pat I thought had an all-around nice game, even playing with 4 fouls. He had 13 points. Thank goodness he went 4 for 4 from the free throw line, because one of the things
No. I know it's your first time reading it. It's 5 of 7 from the free throw
it's
line.
on the 4 for 4 from the field goals.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. 5 for 7, which would still be okay in a night in which you shot 65%. Let's look at Caden's line, because we thought Caden sort of really helped out in a very important time. He finished with 7 points, 3 for 5 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3-point range, and he didn't go to the free throw line, but 4 rebounds. Very, definitely important to us as a team. So I liked his performance, and let's pair him up with Caleb, who had 7 points, similar to Caden, 2 for 6
Yep.
from the field, 1 for 4 from 3-point range. First one was a beautiful stroke.
Yes.
Then 2 for 4 from the free throw line, where you and I have grown accustomed to the fact that he's going to hit iron on the first one of 2.
It's such a mental thing for him. I at some point it's gonna break through. I just don't know when.
He only had one assist, and Caden had
3.
three.
But it's not going to show up in the stats. Foster did a much better job defensively than Caden did.
Absolutely. He was actually a liability during that very offensive stretch that we looked at. I also think that what will not show up in the stats is the contribution from Malik Brown.
Yes.
It's not even, last time I think Jack challenged me to count the number of deflections. There's also something else he does where he's jumping out and closing off the opportunity for the offensive player to have any options, and he slows down the offensive flow incredibly. His defensive contribution, there needs to be new analytics, maybe, the plus minus that they
There's
use.
the defensive rating, which
Yeah.
is how good's the team when you're on the court, which is it's not a completely fair rating, but it's something. It's something to go off of. And I that's a perfect segue because I want to get to the chat. So here's my medals for today. And that's the wrong screen. All right.
There we go.
So my medals for today are gold, Isaiah Evans. I mean, he had a complete game. He hit really timely shots. The 3-pointer he hit in the corner, but then he also had some really good defensive plays, that charge, and then the lob to Gangba. He had a few bad lobs the last game.
Yep.
And for him to have the moxie to throw that lob at that point in the game, it says, I mean, we know Isaiah Evans has no fear, but that said a lot about him. Silver, in a game where I didn't love his shot selection in particular, Cam Boozer. He still had 18, 10, and 5. In Kansas, it's something Duke's going to have to adjust to. Kansas basically decided we're not going to let Cam Boozer beat us. They doubled him every time they could. They sometimes triple teamed him. So that's going to be something Duke, they're going to have good film to work off of. I am sure the Arkansas game, we're going to see something similar where they send 2 at him, and we're going to see how Duke adjusts moving forward. And then the bronze medal, I don't think anybody was clear head and shoulders above anybody here. And so I'm going to go with Malik Brown. I thought his defense was really important. I thought he did a good job settling everybody. He had some good passes that weren't caught. He had one to Dame Sarr that was actually a bad pass. Good idea on Malik's part. I just think he's so important for this Duke team. And what you're talking about is when he hedges out on ball screens and he just makes the ball handler basically stop. There's nowhere for them to go, and it just takes the offense out of their flow. So he is just a joy to watch defensively, and I just every game, knock on wood that his shoulder, his knee is gonna be all right. All right, let's go to the chat. Wow, we've got 28 of you guys in here right now. That is awesome. So, start with Laura. Hey, Laura, just wanted to say hello to fellow Duke fans. Slow start, looked off at first, improved as game went on. Got nervous towards the end when Duke was only up by 3. You and us both, Laura.
Or all 3 of us.
All 3 of, I don't know how you should say that, but everybody was nervous. I felt like I could feel my heart beating through my chest. Basically, almost the last 10 minutes of the game. The last 2 minutes, I started to exhale. Lawrence Freeman. What's up, Lawrence? That free throw performance is not going to cut it. All things being equal, can't really complain when you cover the spread while shooting 27% from 3. And then to your point earlier, Lawrence, and 65% from the free throw line. So
Not good.
Not good, but there are things that Duke can build off of with this one. And it doesn't feel better to be able to build. I know you say, you've said it my whole life, you learn more from a loss. But if they can learn from a win, I would rather that happen.
I don't see my mouth moving, but
That's delayed.
Oh, it's delayed. Okay, fine. All right. All I know is there will be a long session in the film room after this game.
Oh, for sure. And everybody's gonna be a part of it. Everybody's got things they can improve upon, and I think we'll see how it continues. ACBC, what's up, man? Foster and Sar both need to work on their free throws.
To say the least.
Our center, Big Pat, shoots free throws way better than them. Embarrassing. I mean, factually, he does. He just does. Um, why does Foster always seem so casual at the free throw line? I remember you made a similar comment in the last game. So I it's a mental thing for him. It's a mental thing with all of his game. And there are signs he's getting there. And his defense, the look is really good. So I'm not going to beat up on him too much for the offense, but the free throws is the one thing he can absolutely control, and he's got to get better there. ACBC continues. Great win, though, but Kansas was missing their best player. With Darren Pearson back, this may very well be an L. Evans and Caden played very well today. Caden has the poise and mental toughness to be our starting point guard. High basketball IQ, too. Always enjoy watching Malik. Tremendous basketball
It's a
IQ.
really interesting idea.
Caden as the starter, you're saying?
Well, yes. I was reading the chat, so I actually was thinking Evans almost, but that would be putting him out of position. But yeah, now Caden had that good stretch in the second half, but he gives away too much on defense.
If you could combine Caden offensively with his playmaking and Foster's defense, boy, you'd have a heck of a point guard. You'd have a heck of a point guard. And then, the other point with Pearson back, this may very well be an out. Could be. But I also think Trey White is not playing as well if Peterson is back. But the thing that's scary about Kansas, if they can figure out the rest of the team, is the Peterson-Badunga pick and roll is going to be really hard to guard. Really hard to guard. So I think they are going to be just fine moving forward. Lawrence Freeman. I, for one, was impressed by the two-point guard lineup, at the end of the game. Yeah. You pass me my water?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. What do you think about that?
He was certainly looking for more. He being Coach Shire was looking for more ball control, and maybe Jack, to your point, part of what was going on here was that he had a two guard in there so that Caden might provide more of the offensive flow while Caleb would be efficient on defense. And that's why I had them both playing at the same time.
ACBC. I love our team, though, but missing so many free throws are going to be really bad for March. Yes.
That's why we work on it. That's why I talk about it all the time. Duke has to be shooting 80% from the free throw line. 5 more points, and it's not a 12-point victory. It's a 17-point victory, and we feel good about that. And I want to go back to Peterson for a minute. First of all, if he's in the game, we still don't know what kind of game. Does he rise to the moment? Great player, but great player. Don't want to take anything away, but we don't know what he feels playing in Madison Square Garden, freshman, first time. And does he have a great game? I still think Duke wins but maybe it's a closer game, 2 to 5 points or something. But
I think one thing that helped us too is the test we had with Tennessee and Texas before this game. I think those are really helpful. Close games, physical contests against really good programs. I think that really helped us in this one. And ACBC says also, hardest game may be the one in East Lansing. And that's what I was saying before we even started this Kansas game after watching Michigan State the team that I said, and not just me, but a lot of people can't shoot threes, and we watched them shoot 50%, and even if they don't hit threes, which they may never hit that many threes
I
again.
think they finished with 11.
They had 11. Okay, so they had 13 in 3 games before this, and then they had 11 tonight. But even if they don't hit them, they are extremely physical. We know they're well coached with Izzo. They have a great point guard. Fierce had 13 assists. He was averaging 9.7, and his average went up after tonight. That game is, I agree. I think that might be the hardest game. I'm oscillating between that and then the road games in conference with Louisville and of course, North Carolina. Laura, this game was a good test for us. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wes and Susan, welcome back. Great fought game. JD, let me get that scarf. Wes, let us know. Well, we still owe you from last year. So you can, I think my email is somewhere in the bio, but feel free to reach out to me either on like TikTok or Instagram. If you want to send me your contact information, we'll send you a scarf. We still owe you from last year. And I got to look at the score predictions before we sign off, see who is the closest, get somebody a win here. ACBC says Nick was solid too. He sure was. I liked his minutes. I really did like his minutes. Something you want to add?
No, I thought when they brought him and who else did they sub in at that point? And we both noted that the defense got much tougher.
Probably Malik.
Yes, it was Malik and it, the combination, because Humenior also was very strong on defense. So
he was. I'm just trying to get to the. We're up to 2005. Awesome. Keep subscribing if you haven't already. I'm just trying to go back and see who is the closest here on the score predictions from last game. I want to make sure I get that one right. So Wes and Susan, 84-67. I mean, man comes back and gets the closest score.
Looks like me.
He was off by...
I'm only off by 6 in total.
Oh, well, you're right, because Wes and Susan was off by 7. And Lawrence Freeman was off by, let me do the math here, 7, 9. So Wes and Susan was the, no, wait, A275, no.
Still 7.
So Wes and Susan was the closest after you.
Yeah, and the thing is, we all wish Duke would have shot better from the free throw line, and then the difference would have been, I would not have been the closest.
No, but Wes and Susan, listen, won last year, and I didn't pay attention the first couple games, but comes back. This guy's the best score predictor we know. So if anyone's getting lottery tickets or placing bets, check with him. Now, Michael, back to the chat. I thought our young boys grew up and need to thank Kansas for pushing them to grow up. I also thought Cameron found out what it's like to play with other grown, I don't know if I can curse.
Other grown men.
Other grown men. There you go. I think I can, but whatever. I was worried about demonetization, whatever. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm glad you brought that up because there are a couple of things to be critical about Cam's game tonight. And I think we've seen, even in the Tennessee game where he had 23 rebounds, he struggled to score inside. The Texas game, he struggled to score inside. In this game, he was inefficient, struggled to score inside. Again, he's got to make an adjustment. And the adjustment, in my opinion, is not... there's a couple of shots which I think really highlighted his struggles. Shot selection. He took that fadeaway mid-range jumper, which I didn't love. And then he took a step-back 3, which, again, I did not love. And they're okay shots, but he's got to take them with rhythm. And he didn't have rhythm when he was shooting either of them. And so I think he's going to talk about film adjustments. I think that's going to be a big thing for Cam as we move on. And we get these next few tests for Cam are going to be really big. Arkansas has some big guys. And then Florida and Michigan State certainly have really big front court. So
Well, which brings us to Gangba cannot get into foul trouble in these games.
no, and he's got to be a more um, solid positional defender. There were a couple times where Badunga was able to skirt around
Just go
him.
right around him.
And now listen, there's not many bigs like Badunga. He's a little bit smaller. He's like 6'9", maybe 6'10", but extremely quick and fast. The other bigs that we see, Badunga's an outlier in that aspect. But to your point, Gangba's got to get better at staying out of foul trouble. Duke Hoops, they grew up when they overcame Tennessee on the road. I think I agree. That was a really important, well-scheduled exhibition for Duke. I think that was really smart by John Shire to have that game scheduled on the road in an exhibition. So even if they lost, it wouldn't have mattered. But I think that was a really smart decision, especially now.
Well, and when they got it to 67-64 and it was a 3-point game, because of the games that put them into pressure situations like that against good teams, you made a remark to me that they've been there already.
Yes. And I don't want to spend any money, so I'm not making any comparisons. Michael Bakhtiar. I cringed at each wide open three from Dame and Darren. Those misses could have significantly built a cushion for us. Here's hoping they continue building confidence. In particular, Darren. Because Dame, I've been a little bit skeptical, even when he hit his threes in like the Texas game, that would continue. Because he didn't have the reputation. But Darren
has the stroke.
He sure does. He sure does. And some of it, we got to be fair to him in the sense that, you know, this guy, as everybody on Duke, they've spent their high school career being the guy or one of the guys and playing most of the game. And so for him, he's adjusting to being a guy who comes, he's the ninth guy, and he comes in and he plays these 4 or 5 minute stretches. And so he's got to make the adjustment to be ready to knock down his shots in these big games right away. ACBC. Also, I think Trey White really wanted to win. He's lost to Duke plenty. Louisville, Illinois, and now Kansas.
Wow.
And you could tell he really wanted to win. And yeah, I'm sure for Trey White, he had flashbacks, nightmares of the game last year. This is not a comparison.
Nope.
Of the Illinois drubbing, which he was out on the court for. And yeah, that he played really well for Kansas. Him, Badunga, and certainly in the second half, Council were really important for them. Yep, Darren has to improve as a shooter. Quite a disappointing shooting performance from Darren. What did he shoot? He was 0 for 2. Okay. I mean, he didn't get off enough shots for me to feel like, you know.
But also, he only played 8 minutes.
Yes.
So there wasn't a lot of confidence in him. In the close game, Shire didn't go to him. If he had hit the 2 shots, then I think he would have gotten more minutes.
Yeah, and they gave him an extended run in the first half as well. I thought he was playing relatively well until he had that, I think it was in the first half, that turnover with him and Caden both losing the ball. I guess it was Caden's turnover, but they both had lost the ball. ACBC, Evans saved us for sure. He sure did. He sure did. He's just that guy is so much fun out there, and it's fun to watch him.
Did you happen to notice when he took the charge, and you know he got shouldered in there pretty hard, and initially, I think it was Jay Billis or Dan said, you know, boy, he took quite a shot, but he was on the floor and he's going, you know, with his hands and he's, you know, and his threes are like this. The guy is just having fun out there.
He sure is. Michael Bakhtiar, agree about Trey. He was scaring me for a while there. I mean, and yeah, he was playing really well. Trey White was, and that's the thing. Like I don't think he plays as well if Peterson's there, because he doesn't get the same amount of touches to get a rhythm. But Peterson would play better than what Trey White did. I know you made the comment before, would Peterson rise to the moment? I have no doubt he would rise to the moment. He's that type of player. This freshman class is special. Zach Harris, kind of disappointed in Cam's athleticism. Needs to rise up and dunk more in the lane. Seems to get blocked a lot down low. Yeah. Um I I would probably I wouldn't use the word disappointed because I didn't know necessarily what to expect, but I would say it has been um, revealing in these games against big opponents. His lack of explosiveness around the rim has hurt him. And now, look,
Partially due to it's usually two guys that he's got to rise up, and there's always somebody just hanging on him.
there is, but at the same time, he can pick his spots a little bit better.
Yep.
And the one thing I will say, the best player in the NBA is Nikola Jokic. And he's a bit bigger than Cam, which is a factor. But in college, Cam should be okay with not being the most athletic player. And Jokic does a just fine enough job of operating where he wants to and picking his spots. And I think Cam's going to have to make that adjustment now going up against bigger, more athletic players on a consistent basis. And let's see how he does as the season goes on. ACBC. Does Cam remind anyone of Drew Timme? Off the top of my head, no. He does not remind me of Drew Timme, but I can give it like a 25-30% where I can see he's a big guy. I think he's more athletic than Drew Timme, but not the most athletic player.
Maybe if he had a headband on.
If he had a headband, that's a good call. I'm not quite there on Drew Timme, but
If you want, throw it back in the chat and maybe tell us why.
yeah, that's a good point. ACBC. Yep, I don't want to face Kansas in March.
Nope.
Agreed. Pearson and Badunga is going to be a problem once they figure it out. Yeah. Especially the only thing that I think teams will do is Kansas really struggled to shoot the three. And I think teams will pack the paint against those two guys. But Peterson is such a good three-point shooter that you got to be up. It's just a really tough two-man game to guard with Badunga's speed and ability to slip to the rim. So yeah, I'm with you there. Michael Bakhtiar. I felt with Cam around the rim, he's used to bullying his way into the hole, but Kansas said nada, as will be in the NBA. So this, to me, will be a good film session for him going forward. Yes, 100%. 100%. Let's see. Michael also says, I like Nick's game a lot. What he'll be like with another 10 pounds. He had a really nice finish in the first half where he went reverse layup around Bryson Tiller, the 6'11 big for Kansas. And that was really impressive to me. And he just plays with a high motor. And he's they call him like a Swiss Army knife because he'll rebound, he'll pass, he can defend. I really like Kamenia. A little bit surprised he didn't play as much in this game. But I think it's going to be a game-by-game basis for Coach Shire. ACBC, finally, I think we need someone who can hit the mid-range. If not, teams would just pack the paint or guard the three-point line. But I'm not sure if we have anyone that can do that.
We had the opportunity to see if we had someone who could do that. There was a wide open 9-footer for Malik Brown where he could have just turned and either put it up from mid-range or gone, a couple of feet to the basket, and maybe Malik in the middle could add that to his repertoire. He's big enough to be in the middle and receive the pass. So I would have liked to have seen it.
I agree to ACBC's point. I disagree with you on who. I don't think Malik has that in his game. I think to your point, there's really not anybody on the roster who's suited for that on a consistent basis. The guy who I would say I've seen at least do it in the past is Foster. Actually, I think he's got nice touch with his floater at times. It's hit and miss, and he's got a decent mid range shot. So I think he's going to be the guy who I think is the best shot there because Evans, I don't think has hit a mid range shot this year, but in Evans' defense, this is the first. Last year, he didn't shoot anything but threes until the end of the year. He started driving a little bit more, so maybe he can develop that. Foster, I've seen. Maybe
Pat,
I think, could have a decent
because
mid-range
of Pat's
jumper.
stroke at the free throw line,
Yep.
if when he gets the ball, he can call for it up high and turn and hopefully shoot.
Yes. And then lastly, I wonder if Caden Boozer can provide that. I think those would be my three to finish with. Caden, Caleb, and Gangba. Maybe sprinkle in a little bit of Evans, but I really want him shooting threes. And he can shoot from so far beyond the line that even if teams guard the 3-point line, it doesn't really matter. Um, so let's see. A year ago, we had Proctor and Flag with a great mid-range game. We will not comment on that.
Only because we don't want to go back. It's just
We don't want to go back. We want to put more money in the jar. It's nothing personal, ACBC. I think you're exactly right. Weston Susan, Pat played above the rim tonight, and John makes great halftime adjustments. Although in this game, we didn't really notice the second half. If anything, Kansas played better in the second half in this one.
remember they scored. We had 41 points at the half and finished with 78. So 33? No, 37. So we
40.
didn't score more. We actually scored a little less, but
And they actually scored the same. They had 33 in each half.
okay.
So it actually ended up being, we did end up outscoring them again in the second half. It just was very nerve-wracking throughout. So it didn't make me feel like it. ACBC, I actually think Darren can offer us a solid mid-range game. I agree. I just don't know if he's going to get the minutes to develop that confidence, but I do agree that he does have that in his repertoire. And he is just, I hope Darren will stay for a junior year because I think his role is just going to continue to increase. And the talent is there. Just will he get the opportunity at Duke? Weston Susan, Isaiah Evans 3 from the corner with 1 second on shot clock was amazing shot. Just ridiculous. Falling out of bounds, off balance. What a shot. What a shot by Evans. Michael Bakhtiar. Do you guys think, and hit us in the chat with any questions you guys have. Do you guys think Malik's bullet passes were on target but his receivers just missed? Or did he just off time his throws?
Well, one time you said the pat exactly that.
There's certainly the backdoor cut to Dame Sarr where the pass was just a little bit off. There was a pass to Jimena that I don't think anything bad ended up happening, but it was like just a little bit out in front. And then actually ended up with a Caden 3. It was kicked to the corner, and then it shifted out to Caden, and he hit the 3. I think...
Look at the last comment.
Yeah, Duke Hoops is saying Dame literally wasn't expecting such velocity on Malik's dime. Yeah, I think that was part of it, but I actually think when we were watching the game and looking at Dame... I'll go back here. When we were looking at Dame's reaction, I think he was actually saying, like, throw the lob or throw it in front. So I think it wasn't. Part of it was the velocity for sure, because Malik is whipping those passes, and I think it's gonna take a little bit of time for everyone to get used to it. But I think the accuracy of the passes tonight was just a little bit off, and I think some of that with Malik is, as Shire alluded to, he didn't really practice a ton leading up to the season with his knee injury. And so I wonder if some of this being the first game where there's real, the Texas game, there's pressure for sure, but I felt like Kansas did a really good job defensively putting pressure on Duke and forcing us to play a little bit faster than we wanted to. So I think that was part of it.
Skipped over Archangel.
Yeah, I'm getting to that. Are we beating UNC this year? Yes, but
Caleb Wilson's
a problem.
And big problem.
Caleb Wilson, Cam Boozer, that's going to be very interesting, because Cam this is a couple of games now where he's struggled with the size and length of some of these opponents that we've gone up against, and there's not many guys who are longer and more athletic. I don't think there's really anybody in college basketball that has the combination of length and athleticism that Caleb Wilson has. So that matchup is going to be fascinating. And then on top of it, they've got Vasar, who's 7'1". So the combination of those two guys, UNC looks really good, and I think their guards are getting a accelerated development because Seth Trimble is going to be out for a couple months, and I think ultimately that's going to make them better. I think Duke will win. I think we'll split.
The worst will be a split. I agree with Jack. And depending on the game, foul trouble and everything else, there's I like our chances at UNC.
Duke hoops. The lateral quickness with this group is superior. Really kept Rock Chalk out of the lane, and the rotations were NBA-like. Yeah, our defense was really good. Similar to the last game, Kansas got a lot of points early off of our mistakes and some offensive rebounds. But they still only had 66 points. Now, they were missing their best player. And just, you can't exactly just, go past
brush it over, but it was still 66 points.
In Kansas. So a really impressive defensive performance by Duke. And if they can clean up the offense, man, this team could be special. A couple more comments before we sign out. We appreciate everybody in the chat. Please like this video. It really helps us. Subscribe to the channel. Weston Susan Foster played under control.
He did.
He had another good game. If you just looked at the box score, you may not think so, but he had another good game. And then Archangel, if God was a UNC fan, he wouldn't have gave Abraham the ram.
I think that's where we're going to end it.
I think so. Awesome game for Duke. Really happy they were able to pull that one out. It would have been really depressing being here if they didn't. Thanks. Shout out to all you guys who are in the chat with us. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you guys post game. We'll be back. We'll have put in your calendar, JD.
All right.
We got to do the preview for, which game is first? Niagara, I believe, is first. Let me double check. I think that one's Friday, and then Howard is Sunday. So we're going to have a lot of content for you guys coming up, because then on Thanksgiving is the big one with Arkansas. So yeah, Niagara Friday, 7 o'clock, and then Howard Sunday at 4 o'clock. So we'll have a preview Thursday. We'll take tomorrow off. Preview Thursday, post game after Niagara, preview Saturday, post game after Howard. And then we'll get to the Arkansas preview probably Tuesday, and then the big Arkansas one Thanksgiving Day. Make sure you take your nap and you join us post game after that one, because that's going to be a good one. All right, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.
All right, that was our most people this year.
Maybe we should sit together.